Good morning, everyone. My name is Stuart Mendel, and I'm here to talk to you about branding, marketing, and PR as an aspect of nonprofit management. My presentation draws on concepts from Teaching Nonprofit Management, Chapter 13, and parts of Chapter 14. I've also found plenty of source material on the World Wide Web, some of which I will cite as I go along. And I'll make this entire PowerPoint with voiceover available to you on my YouTube channel. After this lecture, you should have a clear sense of branding, marketing, and PR concepts, nonprofit style, have a sense of their strategic use, draw on video illustrations I'll share from the web applying these concepts, and offer signals to me that you grasp the concepts and have some curiosity about them. Since we only have an hour, I'm going to start right now. So branding, marketing, and public relations are tools for use in strategy, action, and performance that nonprofits apply to make space for their messaging in a competitive, crowded, noisy, and boisterous arena. Although these concepts borrow from one another and interact with one another and are related to one another, they are not the same thing. And they can occur in different orders and in the sequences that are required by circumstance. As is true of many of the conditions in which nonprofits operate, the underlying theory behind these practices is malleability, which is to say that they are shape-shifting in nature because nonprofit marketing borrows from concepts originally applied to for-profit businesses. Since I couldn't decide which of these diagrams depicted the relationship as an absolute condition, I'm showing them all to you. And I think you can tell that each has an accuracy all its own. For the most part, or for most nonprofit organizations, marketing is the concept that overarches the framework of branding and public relations. That's the first diagram. In other organizations, the brand may drive the development of a mission statement or be depicted in a mission statement. Then projecting that mission statement out into the commons to raise awareness informs others or draws attention to the mission, and that all leads to marketing in the larger sense. In yet other organizations, in my view, those with funds to allocate for this purpose will create a marketing funnel in which all of the concepts are devised as a plan or a campaign, a system, if you will. And then finally, in the last figure, I suggest reflects the distinctiveness but overlap in each area of dedicated practice. So regardless of where an organization is in its use of these concepts, the starting point for an executive director and their staff is to expect strategic engagement in branding, marketing, and public relations as tools that they can control to speak to constituent stakeholders of the organization. Identifying who those stakeholders are and what they need to know or want to know sets the stage for everything thereafter. Interestingly, stakeholders are diverse in all the meanings of the term. On this slide, I've drafted a back of the envelope drawing reflecting some typical nonprofit stakeholder groups. A for-profit business or a government agent would have different sets of stakeholders. Here in the nonprofit setting, the special relationships are depicted to reflect their closeness, or distance to the organization and to each other. But most importantly, the anchor point is that their relative distance is from the core mission of the nonprofit. This diagram roughly illustrates a social asset map. Essentially, a social asset map is a tool each organization may use to depict its stakeholder groups and relationships visually. You might even say that the social asset map brings a strategic clarity so that people doing marketing, for example, can identify priority groups or a hierarchy of groups for specific messaging. One could spend quite a bit of time creating a social asset map, but there's more. Social asset maps can change over time, so understanding the relationships they depict and the messaging necessary to accommodate each of these groups is never complete. So just to repeat all this, just to emphasize it, I think we can agree that a social asset map like this one reveals who the constituents are and what might be required for messaging to them. While the process of identifying constituents is important, that other aspect of closeness is also important. For example, some are indeed bonded to the organization closely, while others not so closely, and even others remotely. So there's another category of constituents who may not even be aware of their affinity relationship, but are still within the organization's orbit. So if you notice, I'm repeating myself, but at some purpose. And let's just parse the stakeholder groups one step further. Some constituents are individuals requiring or consuming services. Some are board members. Some are grant-making funders. Some are donors. Some are philanthropic institutions. Some are civic leaders. Some are public officials, both elected or appointed. Some are competing agencies. Some are collaborating or partnering agencies. And some don't even know their constituents, though they may accrue benefits from the standing the nonprofit has as an institutional form and contributes to the public commons. An art museum, for example, is an important institution in a city or a town, not just because of what it is or what is inside it, but because it exists as an institution, an anchor for a community. So in respect that they serve a community, lead as an institution, and are an institution also weighs in the strategy of who they speak to and for. So messaging for this purpose is part of the commons, and it adds to the difficult work of effective communications to stakeholders. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, because all three of these concepts require similar yet different prep, it's useful to see them compared side by side. So looking at the first column, nonprofit branding, building a visual identity, trust, and loyalty towards a nonprofit. Typically an image, which could be a logo or a symbol, as a signal to others of this concept. Many nonprofits continue to use their brands primarily as fundraising tools, but the growing number of nonprofits are developing a broader and more strategic approach, managing their brands to validate partnerships and institutions which they affiliate. This is a way to amplify their mission and reach and have social impact. So because of the qualities of the organization, associating with them promotes others. Since I made the point of these concepts are similar yet different, we might want to think of a way to use them effectively and efficiently. A logical but not the only way to do this, to creating a brand and using marketing and public relations outputs together, is the following sequence. First, identification of the individuals and their affinity groups and their interests. Settle upon a message and refine it. Choose a medium to provide the message and expect to repeat the message. Ideally, this is the work of more than one person and typically taking place through the work of a committee, but not always. So let's apply some of this thinking starting with the brand. You might think of a brand as a symbol of something that conveys a message in shorthand or at a glance, so to speak, to some audience who is readily recognized and is meaningful. That would be the message, by the way. The nonprofit originating the brand expects that the meaning will be positive and rise to the point where the branding or symbol will stimulate the stakeholder to think or act positively. Brands that work best convey a quality or qualities. This aspect of a brand is valuable because it affords a nonprofit legitimacy as a provider of a service or a function in society. Even more important is that the brand creates an institutional footprint for an organization that contributes to the common good. To put it another way, a brand is both a recognized identifier for an organization and an indicator for endorsement of those with whom it may associate. A brand is a signal to others to stakeholders that the organization can be trusted and is worthy of your time and treasure. Businesses practice branding in similar ways and for similar purposes. Drawing customers to their products and their services is a desired outcome, but the benefits also include an affirmation of values they desire to be built over time, such as quality of products, reliability of products, the sense that they are an answer to your needs. In the best circumstances, those thoughts or feelings are positive and meaningful, and you seek them out to repeat transactions or to refer others to your good experience. So let's look at these 6 symbols. Maybe we can agree they rated a certain unspoken meaning. So in my opinion, when I see Coca-Cola and that red symbol, I think, actually not so positively, about New Coke, which was a marketing disaster. After a year or two that the flavor was launched, Coca-Cola decided that they would return to classic Coke, which is tastes a little more bitter, but frankly, everybody likes Coca-Cola and the classic variety. So that's what I think of when I see that, the mistake they made. Then when I see the IRS symbol, it sends a shiver down my spine. Not because I've done anything bad, but it just is the sign of authority, and I don't like it. Although I have to, because everybody has to pay taxes. When I see United, I have but mixed feelings. I'm frustrated by them for all the times I've been messed up in my travel. On the other hand, I rely on them for direct flights, direct non-stop flights, which are highly valued in my line of work. When I look at the American Red Cross symbol, I think good thoughts, warm thoughts, competency, efficiency, people that rescue you when you're in need, always there, all the good things that I think most would agree are symbolic of the organization. Some might not, but that's how I feel about it. And then Starbucks to me means coffee, and expensive coffee at that. So what do you say? Do you think you feel the same way with these symbols? All of these things together are a form of power and authority. And I'd like you to think about that as we talk about this particular slide. So you might remember the Keep America Beautiful campaign or organization from the Crying Indian service announcement in the 1970s. Maybe not. I'm probably the oldest person in this room, but this was an incredibly popular campaign. And let's take a minute to review the video. And you can pause here to look. But in 2018, ahead of their 65th anniversary, the Keeping America Beautiful organization, now known as KAB, needed to revitalize their efforts by appealing to a millennial audience. Visual consistency helps support brand recognition, whether someone watches the video on social media or YouTube. Here is the video. Take a look and I'll come right back. The video here is part of a rebrand campaign that sought to capture the voice of a younger generation that is more involved, informed, and prioritizes action over words. To help accomplish this goal, KBA featured a diverse cast to reflect their new desired audience segment. In a business setting, you can think of the brands in terms of customers, but a better, more accurate way to think of the audience in the nonprofit way of looking at things I shared with you on slide 5 for brand is as stakeholders. It's not a subtle difference. Stakeholders may be consumers of services that a nonprofit creates, but it can also include volunteers, funders, government and business partners, sponsors, policymakers, and legislators, donors, and other nonprofit organizations and institutions. So I would ask you if anybody had any reaction along these lines. And I'll pause there for a minute. Many civic organizations, public, private, nonprofit, and philanthropy use the brand concept as a strategic tool to accomplish their missions and agendas by asking, what difference could it make to attach our logo to things to move conversations forward or elevate certain issues? And then I'd ask you, what do these things mean to you and what purpose do you think they serve? But that's something that they ask too. When you encounter the term marketing, so this is the central column on this chart, the goal of the organization is to appeal to stakeholders who may or may not be users of services or customers in the traditional sense that they choose a product and purchase it. Nonprofit marketing is a communications endeavor that's meant to convey to others the importance of an organization, its place in the scheme of things, its function and purposes, its competence, its trustworthiness, its prestige, its worthiness of donations and volunteer time, its partnership efficacy, the value to the community as an institution, and as a place to support society, change society, and everything in between. You can think of nonprofit marketing as a way to present an organization and its brand and all the things it means to its stakeholders to impel them to some kind of action towards mission fulfillment. There's a rule of thumb in the marketing canon known as the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion, often referred to as the marketing mix. Considering all of these elements is one way to approach a holistic marketing strategy. Place refers to where and how people buy your product. Some examples of place consumers can buy products and services include online, via a web browser, through a smartphone app, retail locations, through trade shows or events, through marketplace channels like Amazon, or through sales professionals. Sorry, I should have advanced this a minute earlier. Price refers to how much your product or service costs. How you price your product depends on your competitors' demand, cost to produce the product, and what consumers are willing to spend. Organizations also need to consider their pricing models, including choosing between one-time purchases and repeat buying or subscriptions. Product refers to the product or services your organization provides to your target audience. So what's nice is you can see these concepts side by side, and I'll ask you to take a moment and read them through and spend a little time with them. Promotion refers to specific and thoughtful message delivery. I forgot that one too. All right, so although strategies for the implementation differ from one setting to the next, every holistic marketing approach includes 4 main components. So you had the 4 concepts on the prior page. Now you have 4 concepts on this page. The first is relationship marketing. The goal of a relationship marketing is to build a strong, long-lasting relationship with various stakeholders and other important parties connected to the organization. Customers, employees, financial entities, suppliers, vendors, regulatory agencies, and competitors are all necessary partners for a nonprofit to have and keep. Each has a significant impact on the success or future or failure of the organization and its goals. Relationship marketing focuses on establishing relationships with the stakeholder, and it also requires the retention and growth of each relationship over time. Integrated marketing. Within the integrated marketing component of a holistic strategy, organizations work toward making marketing decisions that create value for stakeholders through a clear and concise marketing message. All activities within integrated marketing include advertising, public relations, direct marketing, online communications, and I could go on. But internal marketing is aimed at catering to the specific needs of a business or a nonprofit's own employees. Internal marketing ensures that employees are satisfied with the work they perform each day, as well as the philosophy and direction of the organization as a whole. Greater satisfaction among employees leads to increased stakeholder satisfaction too. So you want to make that an emphasis, and if you're in a position to do it. Societal marketing is the last one, and the last component of holistic marketing is society marketing. It extends to an organization's reach beyond the customers consuming its product or services to society in general. It's aimed at creating marketing initiatives that are based on ethically sound practices with the surrounding community, providing a way to build the stature of the organization. I know that's a lot, but we're almost done, and I'm not testing you on this. All right, the last column in our chart has to do with nonprofit public relations. Public relations describe the actions an organization takes to shape perceptions of its brand and develop relationships with its customer base. Target audience, partners, and other important stakeholders are all part of public relations outputs. While the definition of PR sounds a lot like branding and marketing, its prized outcome is communicating news and story angles to produce earned media from third parties so that they write about your organization. So here's another list. I'm going to refrain from reading it to you because I'm providing it to you. But these are practice areas in media relations, and a person can obtain a position in any of these specialty areas. If you're an executive director and you're leading this through others in your staff, these are kind of the touch points. And conceptually, these would be the things that you'd want to be sure are happening in some way or another. Okay. So one of the most powerful nonprofit video campaigns your organization can create is one that features the people or communities impacted by your work. Love Your Brain, a nonprofit that works to improve the quality of life for people affected by brain injury, shared their most impact in their yoga video. Several beneficiaries share testimonials of how specific programs have improved their well-being, helping viewers understand the full impact of the organization. So it's an educational type of approach, but it's also inspirational, and it's interesting. It really opens your eyes. So why don't you take a moment and look at this video, and I'll wait. Okay, so there's another video. It's the Follow the Frog video. This talks directly to the viewer, appealing to the thoughts and feelings that many of us have. The humor comes from the ridiculous journey that the character goes on to save the rainforest. It puts us in his shoes, and it mocks the cliche area that one Western man can save the entire rainforest. Just when you think you can't laugh at the hopeless character anymore, the video ends with a simple way that he can save the rainforest without leaving his hometown, buying Rainforest Alliance certified products. So I'd like to ask you if you can, after you look at this, if there's any element of risk in this video and what that might be. And also, I'd like to think about the power of these concepts and the messaging. So if we were to discuss this, these would be the things I'd ask you. And I have a case study that I can take you through if time permits, but that's going to be off video. That's it for now. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.